I learned this valuable lesson a little later in life when it came to diet and exercise. Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I hope you're doing well. So I was having an interesting conversation with a friend of mine today, and they're doing some exercising. The interesting thing about exercise, especially if you're on a carnivore diet or any diet, this is something I learned later in life. I started powerlifting, probably about 8 years ago. Strength training, powerlifting. I was already in my early 40s. I wasn't trying to break any records or anything like that, but I had a old shoulder injury and I had to change my strength training routine from a bodybuilding style of working out to a powerlifting style of working out. I wanted to get into a new strength training routine, and I had to get into a powerlifting style bench press because I had an old shoulder injury from bench pressing years ago, and probably from the early 2000s. Now, powerlifting bench press is a much safer bench press because you pin your shoulders back, and while they're pinned back, you move your arms even though your shoulders are pinned back. So there's a lot more to it than that, but it took the shoulder out of the equation, and I went from only being able to do 90 pounds at a time up to my regular starting point after not working my chest for 20 years, a full 250 pounds to start. I want to start off back to when I originally started working out. I started lifting weights and I accidentally created a circuit training routine and lost a ton of weight as a child. I'm talking probably about a good 200 pounds. The scale could only measure the last 100 pounds that I lost, maybe the last 110 pounds. So I did it all just from working out. I wasn't even trying to lose weight. And I say that because I was eating like a teenage boy. I wouldn't just have a little bit of pizza. I was having a whole pizza, almost a whole pizza. I wasn't just having a little bit of ice cream. I was having a lot. I wasn't having a little bit of mashed potatoes. I was having 2 big servings of mashed potatoes with a Thanksgiving dinner as well. So 3 plates of food. I wasn't holding back with my diet at all. So I was making incredible gains with my weight training, and I got down to a lean, muscular 200 pounds. This is relevant because I was easily around 400 pounds, and that was at 16 years old. So by the time I was 18, I was pretty athletic, but I never paid attention to my diet. I could have put on way more muscle and also maybe even have gotten leaner if I would have done a couple of different exercises, as well as made sure to prioritize protein. Well, I didn't know anything about that at the time. I was just in high school. I was a kid, right? So eventually I kept up with my weights through the years, and I wasn't as consistent with it through the years, but I still maintained that muscle mass. I might have gone a few weeks without, or maybe a few months without weight training, but I was doing something else like martial arts or running, or just I was doing something to always be active. But I wasn't being consistent with my weight training anymore by the time I was in my 20s. And that maintained into my 30s as well. But what I was doing was yo-yoing up by my late 20s with my weight. And I got over 300 pounds, then 350 pounds, then 400 pounds. And I had incredible strength gains with that. But the other thing was I had incredible waist gains with that. And I was putting on a lot of weight doing that. And I eventually got up to a full 465 pounds. So I had already had a major heart attack, and I had lost weight before that heart attack, and I put most of that weight back on. I was probably around 425 when I was starting my powerlifting, and I noticed something really important, and this is the point I'm getting to. I'm sorry it took so long to get here. When I was weight training, I was starting to mess around with diet, and not just diet to lose weight, because I started to notice a difference in my workouts week to week, depending on what my diet was, starting the Monday before. So I'll give you an example. If my diet was anything I wanted, any time of the day, no matter what it was, junk food or a whole roast, I could eat and eat and eat. I just ate to get full almost every single meal, no matter what I ate. It didn't matter if it was ice cream or if it was steak or just a huge balanced meal. And it would reflect positively at the gym. My coach would say, "You made it look easy this week." And we marked all my numbers every week, how many reps I did and how many sets I did and how much weight I went up or maintained. And every week I ate that way, my lifts went up, whether it was a pound or 3 pounds, or depending on the workout. I mean, when you're bench pressing, you can move up a few pounds in a week compared to, say, your bicep, where you can maybe only stay the same weight with your exercise, but you can do more reps. So I was doing between 12 and 15 reps per exercise. And I was just doing pretty well with the strength training. So that was on a diet where I was eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and I was eating to get full. So the good news was my reps were going up and my strength was going up, but my waist was going up along with that because I wasn't paying attention to my diet. Now, if I started trying to pay attention to my diet and I went into a caloric deficit, or I was just in like a maintenance mode, my lifts weren't that good that week. My waist didn't go up. If anything, it started to go down, but my lifts were really struggling. So if I could only bench press, just say 225, 3 sets between 3 and 5, I would struggle to get my third of my 5 reps. I would just barely get that third one. And the coach would say, well, you made it look tough this week. What'd you change? I was like, yeah, my diet. I was just on a calorically restricted diet. And we're talking like 2,500 calories. It was calorically restrictive for me, but it wasn't enough to give me strength gains when I was working out. So it was good maybe to lose weight, but it wasn't good to maintain my muscle mass that well as I was losing weight. So I could only do 3 reps, and I was trying to shoot for 3 to 5. So my weight would stay the same as the week before, and I made it feel tough. I made it look tough. So that wasn't good. So there's one end of the spectrum, I'm eating whatever I want, and then there was the other end of the spectrum where I was in some sort of caloric deficit, probably extremely limiting even my protein, and I wasn't doing that well. My waistline was going down, but so were my lifts. I wasn't making any gains in the gym week after week. But here is the sweet spot I found. When I did a high protein diet, lower carb diet, and not necessarily carbs completely gone, but just a lower carb diet, my lifts went up in the gym, my reps went up in the gym, and my coach would say, you made it look easy this week. So here's what I noticed. Bad diet, eating whatever I want, and as much of it, I was putting on weight, but my workouts looked good. When I had a calorically restricted diet, my workouts weren't good, but I was losing weight. But when I did the third option, I got the best of both worlds. I was putting on lean mass, losing weight, and my lifts at the gym were doing really good. I could do 5 or 6 reps, and I could be up maybe a pound or 2 or 3 on my bench press week after week after week. And it was like, good. And my coach would say, you made it look easy this week. What'd you do? And I was like, you know what I did? I restricted my carbs a little bit, but I upped my protein. I wasn't even focusing on fat at the time because I didn't realize how important fat was. And when you're working out and you're working out and you're working out and you're not getting the gains, and you should notice gains week after week, workout after workout, and you don't notice that, there's something wrong. Something is wrong in what you're doing. Maybe you're working out wrong, or maybe the diet isn't quite there. Maybe as much protein as you're getting, maybe you need a little bit more. So the big argument lots of people say is 1 gram of protein per lean pound of muscle mass that you have, or lean mass. So your lean mass isn't just your muscles. Your lean mass is your bone density. It's also your muscle mass and your organs. If you're already doing a certain workout and you just find you don't have enough stamina, or you're struggling to get through your workout, maybe you didn't get enough sleep, but it also could mean your diet might be off and you need more protein. Whether it's protein or calories, it gives you more strength to get through your workout. So it doesn't necessarily make you fatter, but it gives you more strength. So most people want to put on muscle, but not fat. So you can look into supplements like creatine monohydrate. That's a well-proven, safe and effective method to make your water weight go up, but not water weight in your muscles and fat. No one wants to hold on to water weight in their fat, but just their muscles. It just makes your muscles hold on to water. Most of your muscle is water. So it's going to give you more stamina. You're going to start noticing gains in what you're doing. And I'm not trying to just promote creatine monohydrate, but what I'm saying is you might have to increase your calories and or just protein just to notice a difference week to week. If you're not noticing a difference week to week, how can you be sure you're making any improvement whatsoever? And if you're not making improvement, you have to stop and figure out why. I mean, improvement should be monitored and noticeable week after week after week. Just say all at once, you can just do an all-out 30 push-ups. Next week, you should be able to do 31 push-ups. If you can't do 31 push-ups, there's something holding you back. Could be age, it could be your diet, it could be your lifestyle, but the diet's the easy thing to fix. Just increase your protein. You have to give your muscles the fuel they need. So if you're in maintenance mode and you've been maintaining your weight after all this weight loss on a carnivore diet, you may have to still tweak your calories or your protein or your fat. You have to figure out which one, and most likely protein, so that you can build more muscle, so that you can make noticeable changes week after week after week with your reps or your sets or the strength in your lifts. You want to make sure you're not going for just a number when you do exercise, like I'm going to curl 10 times. You want to stick to a range. So I want to curl between 4 sets between 8 to 12 reps. So that's if you're doing weights as an example. So that way you're always trying to stay in that range. If you get to the 12, that means it's time to increase the weight. And you go back down, and then you start off and you can do your curls again, but maybe you're starting at 8 or even lower, and you're building your way back up to 12. Once you get up to 12, you increase the weight, lower the reps, and then you just build that back up. And that's how you notice your gains week after week. You have to write this down. That's the key. If you're not monitoring this closely, how many reps you're doing at a time and how many sets you're doing and how much weight you're doing, you'll never be able to monitor your gains, because you're like, I've been stuck at 50 pounds for the last 4 weeks. Well, but you could only do 50 pounds 4 times. Now maybe you're doing it 10 times. So therefore you've made gains. And maybe at this point you might want to try increasing the weight. So it's always good if you're watching how much you do and what you do. Monitor it. We all have phones nowadays. It's easy to track what you're doing and how much of what you're doing, so that you know when it's time to move up. When it starts to feel easy, you start to get a feel for it, and you get this sort of connection with your mind and your muscle. And I got to that point pretty much all through my 20s and 30s and into my 40s. Whenever I'd work out, I never kept track. I just knew what point to go to. I knew how to work to exhaustion. So I wasn't trying to track how much I was doing. And I could just feel week after week I was making progress, because the pin was going lower and lower on the weight stack, or I was just going to heavier and heavier weights. It didn't matter what I did. I just always went to exhaustion. If I picked up a weight that was too heavy, I did lower reps to exhaustion. If I picked up a weight that was a little too light, it didn't matter, because I still went to exhaustion no matter how many reps that was. You'll just find at one point, you don't need to pay attention to all the numbers as much, and you can go more intuitively, kind of like carnivore. After a while, you can just be an intuitive eater. But in the beginning, if it helps, especially with weight training, you have to really watch the numbers of what you're doing and pay attention that you are fueling your body enough that you can accent your workouts. It's all about progress and paying attention to what your diet is and how you can tweak that to make your exercising better. But anyway, I hope you're doing well. This is just a lesson I learned much later in life, not till my 40s. The reason why I didn't learn it till later in life is because I ate to get full every meal of my life up until I was in my 40s. So once I started paying attention to portion size and the quality of my meals, I really started seeing it. Take care.